protects the vulnerable when the system struggles? Beneath the routines of policy and programs are the growing rise in violence in our homes and online, uncared for children on the streets, and the millions of people at risk of being extremely poor. These are all signs to strengthen Ghana's social protection system. In this edition of Hot Issues, we explore if the nation is doing enough to protect its most vulnerable. In this edition, we also confront the gaps, the impact, and the urgency of action. Can the Ministry of Gender, Children and Social Protection rise to meet these urgent demands? I'm Kemeni Amano, and my guest is the Minister for Gender, Children and Social Protection, Dr. Agnes Na Momo Lati.
My ultimate goal is to become a world champion.
Welcome to Hot Issues.
Thank you very much.
I want us to start off with the 16 Days of Activism. You launched that some days ago. How's that going?
It's going well. It's in partnership with the UNFPA, and then we are also partnering the GPRTU. It's a male-dominated area, and so they are one of our partners to ensure that we end violence against women and girls. We launched this year at Kanishin Lorry Station, and then we are doing it across the 16 regions of Ghana. And so far, it's good.
What is this year's focus?
This year, we are still focused on violence and abuse, but it's focusing more on the digital violence. When you go on the internet, the cyberspace, you see that a lot of people, young people, innocently, ignorantly, get abused, and then they get blackmailed into doing worse things than they had done previously before the blackmailers got them. And so we are trying to raise awareness generally. Things that they innocently do, like take a picture of yourself, they fall in love with people on the internet, and I've missed you, I can't live without you. And then you get swollen-headed, and then you send your nude picture. The next thing you know is that they are blackmailing you with it. And then there are other harmful practices that they ignorantly get involved in. So we are trying as much as possible to raise awareness on those issues.
How prevalent is that form of abuse in Ghana?
Now, it's one of the high-risk areas that, especially the young ones, they get on the internet and do anything at all. So there's a lot of abuse on the internet. And I think in Ghana, in recent times, you've seen a lot of reports on that. And so this year's focus, I think, is timely.
It's timely.
It's timely.
Right. So, I mean, in what ways will the 16-day period raise awareness? What are the mechanisms and the efforts you're putting in place over that 16-day period?
So we are doing community sensitization, so targeted groups, we are reaching out to them. And the reason why we are also focusing on the GPRTU, you know, the risk of their work and how they take certain things for granted, their long journey, you know, issues, and you don't want to go into. And so we see them as great partners to go on this year's, 16 days with. And we believe that by the end of the day, at the end of the day, when we sit to evaluate, they would have made impact, and that sector would have significantly improved.
I mean, so it's essentially, by the time this campaign is over, you're looking for marked improvement.
Yes.
What do you say to people who think that these campaigns are just effective in words, but not in practice?
So let's take, for instance, this lunch which we just did at the Kanishi Lorry Station. There were people who didn't know much about digital violence. They didn't even know. They had seen things happen. They thought it was not right, but they didn't have a name to it. They didn't even know that it was against the law, but they knew that it was not right to do ABC. They got to know of it. So some awareness was created. At the end of it all, you want to see people being much aware of some of these things. And so heightening awareness is people getting to know that ABC is not supposed to be done. And I think that alone is enough. Beyond that, what we're trying to do is that after the 16 days, I told my team that it shouldn't be an annual ritual. So after the 16 days, we're going to evaluate all the programs that we have, implemented. We'll sit down, assess them, and then see the impact. Some lessons learned, some issues to implement before the next 16 days. That is the only time we can say that, yes, we put these measures in place and this is how far we've come with them.
Do we have a national database that could help us with this?
We have, but if you mean national in us in it's sitting at one place, I'll say it's quite fragmented. The Ministry of Gender has a bit, DOFSU has a bit, I think UNICEF also has a bit. So, and UNFPA also has. So what we are doing now is trying to coordinate and make sure that we have one comprehensive database sitting there that anybody can just go in and access and look at all issues around violence and abuse.
So something like, we could have something like a sex offenders list that we see in other places.
Maybe not with the names as you would want to, but you have the
something
issues.
similar.
Yes. We'll have a meeting, stakeholders meeting on that, and then we'll share ideas, because there are some professional practices that does not allow certain things to be exposed, so that we'll know how best to go about it.
I see. I do want us to stay on that subject of GBV. What are our numbers looking like now as a country?
Not too good. Not too good. The last time we checked, it's around 30%, and that is not too good. And I tell people that the fact that people are reporting now shows that people now know that it is not your private matter anymore. It's an issue of law. And so when such issues are reported, then the states will take action. And that is why you see people, coming out to say that I have been abused.
How well would you say that even with the 30% reported cases, they are well dealt with, they are effectively resolved?
This thing they say, the wheel of justice grants slowly. Yes, I think that is what we experience in terms of seeking justice. It is a bit slow in coming, but eventually, if you don't give up, we get justice served. What we are trying to do in the past, we used to have a much stronger coordination, and that is what we want to bring back. The only way we can fight this abuse is when all stakeholders sit down and we strengthen the collaboration and partnership, where nobody will feel like this is my territory and so it's a no-go area for others. But the resources are never enough. So CSOs have a bit, the state has a bit. How do we sit? You have individual philanthropists who also have a bit of resources to go into this sector. How do we share the resources? This is what I have. This is the limitation of what I have. And then afterwards, okay, who is responsible for doing this? And that is what the ministry wants to strongly do now. And so we are in talks with the Ministry of Interior. I've had some discussions with the minister, who has been very receptive and responsive to their suggestions. So we'll have a coordination that will be proper. You get an abused person, there's a shelter here, we are not ready, we don't have resources available now. You look at the next partner who has a shelter to take on either a child or a woman or a male, whoever it is that is a victim.
So is this policy dependent or this is law dependent?
This is both policy and law dependent. We are even strengthening the law. We are reviewing the Domestic Violence Act. So there's a bill now, which is going to be an abuse bill, and we are hoping that it will get to Parliament and get passed.
What are we hoping to change with the law?
We are taking on emerging issues, the trends and so on and so forth, these cyber issues that are coming up strongly and all of that. All the things that the initial law didn't take on, we are looking at doing that. And then also strengthening the coordination, which is very important, and collaboration in the new bill.
Would this law also make it more punitive?
Yes, more punitive.
More punitive.
More punitive.
I see. Since you brought up the subject of shelters, let's talk about it. The promise was to have 16 regional shelters. How many do we have now?
Okay, so within the year, you know what we go through, aside the budgetary processes that we have to go through, there's also the procurement processes that you have to go through. What we are doing now at the cabinet level, we've had some informal discussions as to how to go about it, because there are individuals who are interested in doing it on a philanthropic base. So that doesn't have to go through government. I mean, this year, we are likely this month to commence some of them. The abuse shelters, we might not be able to expose them, but for the aged and to some extent, even not too safe, but the traffic persons, we can also have some exposure.
I see. But we don't have any of them right now. You're in the process.
No, we are in the process.
We don't have any right now.
No, we don't have any constructed within the 9 months, almost 1 year.
I see.
We don't.
So then help us understand the framework around this. How will it be funded? How are you getting people to work in these shelters? What really is the plan around the construction?
Okay, so for people who will be working there, the ministry already have social workers. So the Department of Social Welfare has lots of staff that are available to work in the shelters. Aside that, we also collaborate, like I said, with CSOs. We also collaborate with the police. So Interior is also available to provide security and so on and so forth. Then currently, we have about 4 partners who are willing to commence work immediately. There's also another shelter that we are putting up for the aged. It's going to be like a daycare where they will go there some number of days in a week and then meet with their peers and then receive medical care, socialize. We want to prolong their lives by having other social activities.
So then we're looking at next year? Is this in
Next
your
year,
budget
more
for
or
next
less,
year?
yes. Next year.
I see. What role do you expect, for instance, I know you mentioned some other stakeholders, but these will be in regions, will end up being in districts. What role do you expect them to play to assist with this very important effort?
So the ministry, per its positioning, work with across sectors. So you have the Ministry of Local Government being one of our key stakeholders, Ministry of Interior, Ministry of Education. So at the district level, we're expecting that the land that we have, the ministry itself has some of the land. Local government, chieftaincy, the chiefs are the custodians of land. It is safe and secured for us. Then Interior provides the security needed when the shelter is constructed. Education, the children who get there, we don't want to distract their flow in terms of education. And so we get some of this support for them. And so the collaboration is what we heighten around shelters. So yes, these are key people, key stakeholders. Then you have the CSOs. We have some that are specialized in that, and off your head, you can think of the ACT Foundation, who has been in this business for a very long time. There are other CSOs, and then you have the development partners who are also into protecting children and women and other abused persons.
So, I mean, over the 2026 period, how many of these places do you hope to have constructed?
The least we can say now, the least in 2026 will be 4.
4.
Yes,
Okay.
the least in 2024. 2026
2026,
will
yes.
be
4.
4. Yeah.
We'll come back again and then find out
Sure.
how far you have gone with
Sure.
it. But let's talk about survivor care kits, because it's one of the things that the ministry plans to do. Tell us about it. What's the latest with that?
Okay, so there have been a couple of consultations. There have been stakeholder engagement. I think the last check, they are at a final stage. And you know, these things, like I said, are intersectorial. So once they are finalized, we'll have a whole thereby in education on that.
So in the meantime, what happens with victims who need shelter, who need survivor care kits, the legal aid, the medical aid? What happens? What is the provision?
Some years ago, we advocated for a one-stop center, which sits with DOFSU. So this one-stop center, what it does is that you have all of these services that you have mentioned, the legal, the medical, and all of that there. What we are looking at is expanding it beyond sitting at the DOFSU office, where they can also move around with the same provision of services. So for instance, when you go to the one-stop center, you will see that victims are able to have access to courts. The courts, especially the children, they are able to monitor and engage the legal services.
So, this one-stop center is here in Accra?
Yes, it's here in Accra. When you approach DOFSU headquarters,
you find it.
There, yeah.
How about the other parts of the country? Do we have one-stop centers? Okay.
No.
Okay.
That's the only one
then that's woefully inadequate.
It's inadequate. It's inadequate, but the services are such that you cannot have in all 16 regions for now. We are advocating for at least 1 or 2 more, so that we'll be able. In fact, it will be good if we even get an additional one to what we already have, so that it will cut down the time moving victims to court. When they are not at the one-stop center where you have a lot of security around, some high-profile cases, they need to be guarded right from the shelters to the courts and then back. And so that becomes a challenge. The payment of certain fees along the line also become a bottleneck. So once you have the one-stop centers, you are able to, eradicate some of them, and then there's a smooth process of ensuring that justice is served.
What would you say is your biggest challenge when it comes to tackling the issue of GBV in the country?
Aside resources, the victims' ability to follow the process through, because sometimes at the heat of the period, they will report, and then you start the case. Once the case management commences, then family heads, traditional leaders, religious leaders, and other opinion leaders get involved, and then you have to truncate. It is only in few cases that you have us following through. Just recently, I was sharing with one of your colleagues a case that was brought. It was a case that was a desperate one, and then we started the processes. If you listen to the audio to cease and stop handling the case, you'll be amazed if it was the same person, but there was pressure from other quarters.
So there's a lot of interference from family members.
From family, from religious and traditional leaders and opinion leaders and all that.
Can the law change around that so that when there is a case of GBV, it's now the state's problem? Yeah, there are many cases that irrespective of those pressures, the state takes its course. But sometimes you just can't help it.
You can't help it. Because you need the victim to testify that, yes, I've been abused.
That there is a case.
Yes.
I see. I want us to move away from this briefly. But before we do, one of the things that the ministry and any other stakeholder involved in tackling GBV is the privacy of the victims. With social media now, are you able to protect victims? To what extent?
That's a tough one too. Previously people felt that the ministry was not responsive. It was because we were trying to handle it as private as possible.
Right.
I do appreciate the fact that, yes, the public needs assurance that justice will be served, because knowing that the public is monitoring also puts pressure on all other stakeholders involved to ensure that there's justice served. But in most cases, like we are talking about violence and abuse, in terms of the cyberspace, internet and all that, as we speak, people get their nudity on the internet. It never goes away. People's identity are exposed. It never goes away. Some are followed with stigma. What we try to do, especially for children, we try as much as possible to protect them so that when they are growing, the stigma doesn't follow them. That's one we are trying. We are trying. So when there are cases that people want to know, like at a point, you know, if we were handling it,
Right.
the name of Harriet would not even have come up. Even if we had to say this is an abused person or a victim, we would not even give the actual name. We would have given some, you know, coded or whatever. We would have used a coded language or some name.
Protected her identity.
Yeah, for her. But now it is out there. When everything is settled, she will now be reflecting. But anyway, that is why the psychosocial support is there. She will acknowledge what has happened to her and then also be an active person in the solution to a better life.
And then there is also the opposite side of that, which is whether or not, as a victim, I can trust whoever I meet at the offices to protect my privacy. What assurances can you give victims?
I would say that once you get to the shelter, those there are highly professional. They are professionals. I mean, there's no doubt they are not going to expose you. They are under oath, and they will make sure that you are well protected. For those who don't want anything of theirs to come up in the public, people have gone through, like I said, these are issues we handle on a daily basis. People call in, and then we report them on a daily basis, and nobody gets to hear. But some come, you know, through the public domain, and those are the ones that we have to go out of our way to give the public assurance that we are going to monitor and work with other relevant stakeholders to ensure that justice is served.
I want us to talk about children now. How well is Ghana doing in protecting the rights of its children?
It's not bad, but it could be better. It could be better. The Children's Act itself is undergoing review, just like the Domestic Violence Act. And it is also the same thing to take on emerging issues and then trends to ensure that we can protect the children better than we are doing now. So basically, there are other stakeholders. It's the same with civil society organizations, the ministry itself, the judiciary, interior, all others. And then local government also plays a role in all of these.
Why do we still have a lot of children on our streets?
That is 1,001 question, because it's multifaceted. That is why it is not only the ministry that handles it. You see us collaborating with Interior on most of them. And then when you get them, you try to look at welfare issues that have, aside the legal part, that have to take place so that they get a better future. There are some people using these children for, you know, business.
What kind of business?
For begging, for robbery, or stealing, whatever you want to call it.
Right.
A lot of
essentially,
vices.
Vices.
A lot of vices.
But if we know this, why haven't we then done something about it?
It's been done almost every time, periodically. The police goes in to have a soup. The Interior Ministry of the Immigration also goes in. We work with them. Some are also trafficked children from neighboring countries. And so you get them into the shelter, and then gradually you repatriate them. And so basically, we don't want to see it happening too often or so many children on the street. But it is something that when we work so hard at it, we coordinate our efforts well, I'm sure that we'll have very minimal children.
But what would it take, right, for us to win the fight against streetism?
Cracking the whip, making sure that the law takes its course, but it is very expensive even repatriating them, sending them to their various countries. There have been cases where some countries have disowned their nationals, and you have to keep them, feed them, clothe them. It's a whole lot. Very expensive in doing that, but it's not a hopeless situation. It's something that we are working at, and we are hoping that the implementation of the 5-year strategic plan will see some more actions to stop children on or street-connected, child activities.
I see, and so these will also cover, because then I want to ensure that the conversation is not only targeted at children or foreigners who are on the streets, but also Ghanaian children, who are on the streets.
Yes.
How many have we been able to return home this year?
What we do is to go for the perpetrators and then reintegrate the children. I can't tell you the figures or the numbers of head, but a lot of them, and families know. They will come and say, oh, it's our child. We gave the child out to a relative to stay with. But the truth is that some don't even know that it is a modern day kind of slavery. So once we identify it as a trafficking something, we go and then implement and let the law take its course. We reintegrate the children, ensure that their education doesn't suffer and their general growth and development also doesn't suffer.
What explanation do you have for that? Their continuous presence there, despite all the effort you put in?
There's an incentive. There's something that motivates them. Especially for the younger ones who cannot take decisions on their own. They are on the street, under the guidance of somebody, and they go back to make sales. They are into all manner of vices. But what I'm trying to say is that we've implemented lots of strategies to get them off the streets. The 5-year strategic plan will hopefully, will be able to see some significant results.
And that hasn't started yet?
Will not, it has.
Okay.
That will not completely get every single child off the street, but at least it will not be as alarming as we see it now.
Okay, right. Let's talk about early childhood care and development. There's a policy you're reviewing now?
We have. Cabinet has actually approved of the early childhood care and development policy. And we are creating awareness around it, sensitization, the same as the national gender policy. It's also been approved by Cabinet this year. And so these are policies that go a long way, especially the early childhood care and development policy, 2025, this year. That is helping us not to just handle some of these issues as a one-off thing, but from a policy perspective, that is really helping us.
I see. So, I mean, what are the gaps that, for instance, the early childhood development program will fill? What is it resolving as far as the development of our children is concerned?
So the ages that we need to pay critical attention to, 0 to 8 years, and then the various activities, who is playing what role, at what point, who is monitoring, how do we evaluate and assess the growth and development of the child, how do we protect the child more, and then also people, there's a bit of it that sits with education. That's why I say our work is multi-sectorial. So when we are doing the coordination very well, some of these things, we are hoping that the proper development and care of the children in Ghana will succeed.
Are your officers overwhelmed in dealing with child abuse issues?
I wouldn't say that.
Okay.
Because there's an extent to which we play our role. The rest of it is to monitor. We are supposed to be heavy on policy. When I say heavy on policy, like the policy level, do a lot of work around there. And then the rest, we are monitoring the other institutions, state institutions, who are mandated to carry forth from where we leave off. So it is not like we're doing everything. And we have quite a number of staff to handle all of that. We have the Department of Social Welfare, and then we also have the Children's Department.
We'll take a very first break. You're watching Hot Issues. My guest is Gender Minister Dr. Agnes Naa Momu Lartey. If you or anyone you know is experiencing some form of domestic violence, you can get help. Call 0800 111 222, 0800 900 900, 0800 800 800, and get some help. There are people who will professionally assist you with whatever you're going through. This is Hot Issues. I'll be right back. Don't go away. Welcome back. It's Hot Issues here on TV3. My guest is the Gender Minister, Dr. Naa Momu Lartey. If you or anyone you know is experiencing some form of domestic violence, remember there is professional help for you. You can call the following numbers: 0800 11 1222. You can also call 0800 900 900 or 0800 800 800. Doc, thank you so much for your patience.
My pleasure.
I want us to look at LEAP now. This year, the plan was to distribute over 260 million to over 350,000 households. How far has that gone?
So far, so good. You know, it's a social protection policy, and it's been good so far. And let me say a big thank you to His Excellency, President John Dramani Mahama. As we speak, we've not defaulted. Okay. And so we will say that up from January to October, we've done the disbursement on time. Okay. And we are left with November, December to do the final disbursement for the year, which will be the 100th for the year.
So you've got all 262 million CDs?
In fact, the one you are projecting, which is in the budget now.
Oh, right.
Is against
it's for 2026. Right.
But
so how much have
we've disbursed so far? It's done bi-monthly. So it is cash grants which get releases from the Ministry of Finance to the Ministry of Gender, and then it goes through to the individuals with experiencing extreme poverty.
So how much have you disbursed this year?
I have to check my figures.
Okay.
I have to check my figures. But we are around 350,000 extreme poor households.
Wow.
And then that is translating into some 1.5 million individuals. And then we are hoping this year with a reassessment, we'll be able to leap some few people out of poverty. That is, graduate them and then take on new members or people who are experiencing extreme poverty. And so that is where we are. The target, per what His Excellency John Mahama said, is to have 400,000 beneficiaries. This 400,000 means that with the current 350, we have to do like roughly 50,000 additional beneficiaries.
I see. And that is what the 262 million CDs is for.
Yes.
The projections for 2026.
Yes.
I see. Now, there are people who are concerned about the funding for LEAP. Do you have same concerns?
Yes. For every social intervention, when funding is not sustainable, or you don't have any sustainable sort of, funding, it's a worry, because when funding is cut, then you realize that the dependent will become more vulnerable. We've had discussions with the Ministry of Finance, one about the financial. The reassessment is to see if beneficiaries have, emerged from the extreme poor poverty bracket and they need to be graduated, who has passed on in terms of death and need to go off. And so on and so forth, who has now fallen, the issue of vulnerability. Today you are okay, the next time you don't know. Yeah, so who has also become vulnerable, so we take on board as part of the 50,000 plus.
Has that reassessment concluded?
It's ongoing.
It's
not concluded.
I see.
It's ongoing.
So then essentially you cannot give us any conclusive numbers.
No.
Because it's ongoing. But for some people, again, the last thing I read about the audits, they say happened in 2022. That was the last financial audit that happened.
No.
Is that
the audit
true?
goes on annually, but the reassessment, which is also a form of auditing, has never been done. This is the first time we are.
Since 2008, it's never been done.
It's never been done.
I see.
Since the start of the program, and it's because of the huge amount of money involved in doing the reassessment, and so you weigh the cost of that as against sending it directly to the people who need it. But then for the sake of accountability, this is very essential. And at this point, it's not a matter of should we do it or, or not. But we are going on with a reassessment.
How much do beneficiaries get?
It's ranges. So from 300 plus to 500 plus, depending on the number of households.
I see. How, again, there are people who feel when they have to sign up onto LEAP, it's a difficulty. What really must somebody do if they think they should benefit from LEAP because they need it?
Okay, so this is something we go into the individual households and then do an assessment based on the criteria. The person should be extremely poor. There are some factors they take into consideration. And then also it's for pregnant and lactating mothers, persons aged 65 years and above, and then persons with disability who don't have, any care or support, and orphans. So these are some of the beneficiaries we have. And then if the assessment is done, because it's data-driven, if the assessment is done and then you don't qualify, it will be difficult to put you on board.
So as you sit with me, how confident are you that the true beneficiaries are those receiving it?
I would say that I'm about 80%, confident, because it's a human setting.
Right.
The assessment will bring out the rest of the 20%, what is happening to it. And that is where we'll take a bold decision to know what to do. And so this reassessment, expensive as it is very necessary for us.
The reassessment is expensive?
Yes, for us to have value for money.
How much are we spending on this reassessment?
For now, we don't have I can't say the bulk, but if you talk to all the stakeholders involved, but I think it's not as expensive as leaving things to run without assessment. And it's not only in Ghana. It's not only in Ghana. In almost all the African countries that are doing the cash grant, it's been very difficult for them to do the assessment. But I think for Ghana, this is where we are. The last time we shared some of our experiences and lessons, peer review sort of, I think a lot of people the other African countries were amazed that we are doing the reassessment. And then once we are done, we'll be able to sit down and know what has gone into it, the cost, the other human efforts, resources, other resources as well. And then we'll be able to say to our other peers that this was what went into it. Then they brace themselves for it.
I see. Let's talk about the Disability Act. To what extent have we implemented it since it was passed?
Currently, it's undergoing some review. We've taken input from all sectors, all stakeholders, including the persons with disabilities themselves. And the implementation has not been 100% from what their entitlements are in terms of employment, in terms of common fund, and then also accessibility to public spaces and all that. It's not been 100%. With the review of the bill or the act, I hope that some of these things can be, strengthened, and not only strengthened.
But in what ways are we hoping to strengthen it?
Looking at putting in more punitive measures,
right,
so that we can hold people accountable. It's not only about Ghana, but also international standard. If you are building and the building doesn't have, it's not accessible to persons with disability, you know that it's against the law. And so the law will take its course. And then do more advocacy for persons with disability themselves to speak out in their own voices, in their own words, some of the issues, report so that the law would take its course.
But what does it say about this country and our outlook on persons with disabilities when we haven't bothered to implement fully the Disability Act since it was passed years ago?
It's not a perfect picture, like I said, but
But it
it's
also
also
means
not
we are
too
not taking
gloomy.
it seriously.
We are taking it to a certain extent. We are taking it seriously because those days it came with some stigma. Now there's less stigma. It's not completely off, to the extent that we've had a person with disability, visually impaired, being a minister. And so that is a step forward. It came with a lot of resistance, but we got it done. And we are hoping that in other the appointments and things, you will get more persons with disability being appointed and also elected. So gradually we are getting there, even though it is not the best of situations. The utilization of their funds, where they will have, a say in the assessment, needs assessment, what they want to do.
Are they even timely, getting their funds timeously?
That is another issue. But as to whether whatever time the fund is released, and this is not peculiar to them alone, the common fund delays. When it is released, as to whether they have the full complement of what they have to get, it's a different thing altogether. And then what they are supposed to use the money for, you want to be sure that these are the things that pay the assessment and discussions they've had. This is what they agreed on, and that is what the fund is going to be used for. And it's given to them. But as we speak, they hardly get that.
I see. There has been the talk of a national audit of our buildings. When do you plan to do that?
It will not be one institution taking on that.
Okay.
Per the law. I think, like I said, these are some of the things that the review is undertaking. And so once that is in full force, even with the policy, we are sitting to discuss, and then we will see how to go about it.
Is your new building disability friendly?
Absolutely.
I see. Which
Absolutely.
part?
When you are coming and you are with a wheelchair, or even the walking stick, any aid you are coming with, you can either choose to use the elevator or the
ramp.
The ramp. So our building is disability
friendly. But it's also not just about landed properties like this building. It's also about our public transport.
Yeah.
What really is the plan? Because while we are looking at a review of the law, there also really is a law at this time that needs to be implemented. Who is holding you back from implementing that part of the law? Because you said it's a multi-stakeholder.
Yes.
So which institution is holding you back?
When it comes to transport, we have Works and House, and some of the laws need to be enforced by them. When it comes to transport, you want to make sure that the ministry responsible. So we will clearance to say, okay, let's look at it. We are bringing this, make this input. So it doesn't have to be physical meeting, and then we get things done. So gradually.
Because the reason I'm hard on who is holding you back is because there are building inspectors. They know when they go there, they should see a ramp. They should see something that makes it easier for a person with visual impairment to go in and out of that building. But they watch these buildings come up, and they don't do anything about it.
Okay.
So in such situations, you are held back from doing what you're supposed to do.
Yes, for especially the new buildings that are coming up, you have every reason to take them on if these facilities are not there. And so you work with AESL and all other stakeholders to ensure that it's slow. The coordination is a tough one, but we are gradually getting there.
We'll see how that plays out. But I want to talk also about employment, right? Because the ministry plans to mandate 5% hiring of persons with disability in the public sector. Is this something that is happening now or is in the review of the Disability Act?
It's not happening, but it's something that His Excellency John Dramani Mahama is very passionate about. And when you meet the federation or the council members, they will tell you every promise that comes out of the president's mouth, they hold it, you know, in high
So
esteem.
essentially, this promise was made in the manifesto.
And that is one of the things that we are watching to implement.
And so that one too, you haven't done it?
No, I mean, some of these things, they need policy changes and all that. And so when I say all buildings should have disability-friendly environment, it will not take a year. It will take more than a year. Right. Some will even take more than, 2 years. But the good thing is that when I come and you tell me that you are building a ramp here, I know that at least you've commenced something. I'm putting in an elevator here. I know you are doing something. So these are some of the issues that we are picking up. And the good thing also is that we have constant interaction with the persons with disability at the council level and then the associations. And so we look at how to go about these things. The rehabilitation centers and all that, they come, we discuss them, and then we see what measures to put in place to see them done.
But this 5% hiring, the government has not shown the way.
Labour spoke at length.
No, but the government has not shown the way, because how many persons with disabilities have you employed at this ministry, at the presidency?
It's still rolling.
It's still rolling.
It's still rolling.
We should expect that.
Expect it. It's still rolling. At least you have a lot of commitment that the president made that you see being executed. The free tertiary education for persons with disability.
That's true.
Which they are so excited about. Not just them, but those of us who support them in education, we are also very excited because it takes a whole lot of burden off our shoulders. And then the support, the aid that the president has promised to give them in the budget. These are things that we're monitoring with them, working with them to ensure that it's fully implemented.
Doc, why do you think that traffickers have got comfortable trafficking to and through Ghana?
I think that either there could be multiple reasons why. But one of the reasons, permits me to talk without data supporting it, but one of the reasons you will hear people say is that, this arrangement people have, I'm going to stay with this person as a help, and then they go, even within, don't even go outside our borders, within our borders. And then the people go, the reason for which you go for the child is a different thing altogether. You go looking for your child at the home you left the child, or the child is supposed to be, and they've been trafficked elsewhere into some sort of slavery. And so people used to take these things for granted. I remember when some CSOs were working around this, they had lots of resistance, and they came to the ministry for collaboration because people felt that I have my child, and the child is going to stay with an auntie. The child is denied education because maybe their relative is not ready for that yet. It is okay. But they realize that the law frowns on that. That is where they don't understand. It is a family arrangement. And so they don't understand that. Or they cross the border, the child goes into sex slavery. And it is only when things get out of hand that they see the gravity of it. But before then, they think it is normal. Now there's a lot of awareness. Those who live across the banks, they now know that it is not just okay to take your child. I think there's some motivation for them to do that. Families with high number of children also feel some way overburdened.
Right.
And so someone coming to support them take care of their children sort of becomes a relief. And so they easily part with their children, hoping that the children will, get some kind of support. And then they have less mouth to feed. These are some of the issues.
And then there is also, I mean, outside of this domestic trafficking, there's also the issue of regional trafficking, right? From our West African neighbors who end up here in Ghana under the guise of one thing or the other. Then there are some Ghanaians who also find themselves in the same situation in other countries, maybe even outside our international borders. What efforts are in place to ensure that we nip this?
We work with the Ministry of Foreign Affairs on most of these issues. So we get reports on people who have been taken, you know, outside even the continent to go and do with the promise of doing one job or the other, and they realize that it was a different thing altogether. So once they come in with them, the issues, we approach Foreign Affairs, who work with other stakeholders to track and make sure that they bring the people to safety. And so we've been working on some of these
Why are
issues.
we not able to stop it?
It is very difficult because it's an individual decision that is taken at the blind side of the state. Like you are living in your home and you say you are taking your child abroad. People will hardly stop you. Once you get the visa, they facilitate it, and then you are gone. But when they go through agencies, it is easier to track the agency or hold the agency responsible. But on their own, going with relatives, they go and leave them there. It's difficult to track. But once it comes to our notice, in fact, since I came to office, I have been dealing with some of these things. And then once we get the telephone numbers, the location, or the other information that will help, I forward it to the Ministry of Foreign Affairs, and then we are able to work around it.
How is the Human Trafficking Fund doing?
It is okay.
Do we have
It
money?
can be better. For human trafficking, it is not like an individual thing,
Right.
like I said. So we have Interior playing a role, and then ourselves. When I say Interior, with all its agencies, the security agencies playing a role, and then ourselves.
But how much attention has the fund got?
It has adequate attention. It can be better.
That it could be better.
But you know, no amount of money is too much when it comes to fighting these things. The more resources you have, the more efforts you put in, hopefully. So no amount of money is too much when it comes to fighting some of these menaces.
What do you say to people who think that instead of it being a gender ministry focused on gender-related issues, it seems to be focused on just women and children?
We don't just focus on women and children. The data doesn't support us focusing on abused men because it's just a minute part of what we do.
Or maybe the men don't feel that they are welcome here.
No, in fact, we've been very receptive to the men. Just recently, okay, so this year when I came into office, I welcomed a group of young boys who have boys' clubs to speak about abuse and then also what they are going through. And they virtually asked us to listen to them, see what they are going through, and feel their pain. We heard them. And so this year we'll be having the masculinity conference, which is part of the AU, activities. And it might not fall exactly within the 16 days, but we are hoping to commence awareness.
But
His Excellency is excited about it.
But as for the 16 days, it's for the women.
Oh, it's also for the boys.
It's also for the boys.
Abuses. You
Very
know,
well.
when this abuse happened to the man, the one that came up on social media, you might not be seeing everything that comes on social media. So there was this lady that was, abusing the boyfriend or whoever he was. And then people started sharing. And before we could even commence investigation, there was a judgment that because it is a woman, the gender ministry doesn't want to go into it. And no matter the amount of assurances we gave them, they couldn't believe it until the lady was arrested. Then they realized that it is not just about women. Any man, in fact, we are very receptive to the men. because it takes a lot of courage for a man to come and report that I've been abused. And so when they come, we receive them nicely and make sure justice is served.
We'll keep a scorecard for you.
Thank you.
Thank you so much for talking to us.
My pleasure, always.
My guest in this edition is Dr. Agnes Namumo Lartey. She is the gender minister of this country. We'll be looking at all issues to do with social protection and gender-related matters, but also poverty alleviation, however you look at it. Remember that if you or anyone you know is experiencing some form of domestic violence, there's professional help out there for you if you contact the following numbers: 0800 111 222, 0800 900 900, and 0800 800 800. My name is Kameni Amano, and this is Hot Issues. Bye-bye.